I buried my husband in someone else's skin, the dirt clumping under nails that weren't mine, while the preacher droned on about eternal rest like it was a goddamn sales pitch. 24 hours later, I sold our home, the one we'd poured our blood and sweat into, for a quick buck. My mother-in-law's signature scrawled beside mine on the dotted line, her eyes gleaming like she'd just hit the jackpot at Foxwoods. But Evelyn Whitaker forgot the ring, the antique gold band on my finger, etched with coordinates to the offshore account where she'd hidden the millions from the life insurance scam that killed Jack, and the body swap tech that trapped me in her withered husk. It started 6 months before the funeral, back when life in Marin County still felt like the American dream wrapped in fog and overpriced kale smoothies. Jack and I had it all, the craftsman bungalow in Sausalito with bay views that made you forget the tech bros commuting across the bridge every morning. He was a mid-level engineer at some startup peddling AI for traffic optimization, ironic, since our biggest jam was always Evelyn. My mother-in-law, the queen bee of Whitaker Pharmaceuticals, lording over boardrooms in her Palo Alto glass tower, like she owned the patent on immortality. She hated me from day one. Called me the gold digger from Fresno behind my back, even though I'd clawed my way through community college night classes to land a job as a paralegal in the city. Jack, he was her golden boy, the only son who'd stayed loyal after Dad bailed for a younger model in Reno. The betrayal hit like a rogue wave off Stinson Beach. Jack came home one night, face pale as the moon over the headlands, clutching a USB drive like it was the nuclear codes.
Val.
Evelyn's cooking the books, he whispered over takeout from that Thai place on Bridgeway. She's funneling R&D funds into this black market project, neural mapping for body transference.
Like
swapping consciousnesses. For the ultra-rich to cheat death. I laughed at first, thinking it was one of his sci-fi podcast binges. But then he showed me the files, emails, wire transfers, test logs on lab rats that ended up with human memories scrambling their brains. Whitaker Pharma wasn't just big pharma. It was playing God with venture capital from Silicon Valley VCs who thought aging was for peasants. Evelyn found out he knew. Of course she did. Her spies were everywhere. From the family Christmas Zoom to the gardener who trimmed our hydrangeas. 2 weeks later, Jack's Tesla plunged off Highway 1 near Devil's Slide, ruled a tragic accident by this HP. Brake failure, they said. I screamed at the coroner, demanded forensics. But Evelyn swooped in like a hawk, her lawyers burying the investigation under NDAs and grief counseling stipends. She paid for the funeral, the casket, the whole 9 yards, white lilies and a string quartet at the Sausalito Presbyterian. Because nothing says eternal love like imported flowers from Holland. I stood there in my black sheath dress, numb, watching them lower him into the earth while she patted my hand and murmured about moving on. That night, she slipped something into my wine at the wake, a bitter tang I chalked up to too many condolences. By morning, I woke up choking, my vision fracturing like a bad acid trip at Burning Man. When the fog cleared, I wasn't in my bed. I was in hers, Egyptian cotton sheets in that sterile Pacific Heights penthouse, staring at a vanity mirror framed in gold leaf. The face looking back, Evelyn's. Sharp cheekbones, Botox smooth forehead, lips painted the color of congealed blood. 72 years of boardroom battles etched into every line. But the eyes, my eyes, wide with horror. I touched the sagging skin under my jaw, felt the liver spots on hands that had signed off on clinical trials for antidepressants that turned soldiers into ghosts. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't a dream. This was her project, the neural mapper, that unholy machine hidden in Whitaker's sub-basement labs. wired to electrodes and humming with quantum processors bought from shady contacts in Shenzhen. She'd done it to escape. Jack's death wasn't an accident, it was cover. He'd confronted her, threatened to go to the SEC, and she'd dosed him with the prototype sedative during a reconciliation dinner at her place. Then, while he lay paralyzed, she'd initiated the swap, not with him, but with me. Why me? Because I was the loose end, the grieving widow who'd inherit nothing but suspicion if his suspicions leaked. In her body, I'd be discredited, raving about body swaps like a tinfoil hat case from the psych ward at Langley Porter. And in mine, she'd play the devastated daughter-in-law.
Sell off assets.
Vanish to some non-extradition paradise with the slush fund. The house, collateral. Our home. The one Jack and I flipped with weekends of paint-splattered fights and make-up sex on drop cloths, was her first move to liquidate. I stumbled to the ensuite bathroom, retching into marble porcelain that cost more than my yearly salary. My reflection, her reflection mocked me. Valerie Whittaker, I muttered, testing the name like a curse.
No.
Evelyn Whittaker. I was trapped in the villain's skin, and she was out there, strutting in my 38-year-old frame. All curves and unlined confidence, probably raiding my closet for Lululemon to blend in at the yoga studio. The swap wasn't perfect. Echoes lingered. Flashes of her memories assaulted me. Childhood Jack building sandcastles at Baker Beach. The sting of her divorce settlement. The cold thrill of closing a merger that shuttered a rival's factory in Detroit. But my core? Intact. Furious.
Scheming.
First things first. Access. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Face ID scanned her face like a traitor. Text from her assistant. Closing on Sausalito property tomorrow. Buyer wire deposit. Our house. 24 hours post-funeral. And she was evicting my ghost. I scrolled frantically. Bank alerts for transfers to Cayman Trusts. A burner email chain with a DR. Voss about post-transfer stabilization. Voss, her lead neuroengineer. The weasel who'd greenlit human trials on undocumented migrants smuggled via the port. I bookmarked it all, heart pounding like a jackhammer on the 101 during rush hour. I couldn't go to the cops. Who'd believe Evelyn Whittaker was body-jacked by her dead son's wife? I'd end up in a padded room at San Quentin State, doped on her own lithium knockoffs.
No.
Revenge had to be surgical. American style. Leverage. Leaks. Lawsuits that bled you dry before the gavel fell. I dressed in her walk-in closet, tailored wool crepe, pearls that felt like nooses, and drove her Audi Q8 down California Street. The city unfolding like a bad noir flick. Golden Gate fog clung to the hills. Tourists snapping selfies at Lombard while I gripped the wheel. Knuckles white. Plotting. The Whittaker Tower loomed in Palo Alto. All mirrored menace and solar panels greenwashing the sins inside. Security nodded me through retina scan. No questions. Elevator to the executive floor. Hushed carpets. Abstract art that screamed, I paid for this with opioid settlements. Her office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the dish trails. Desk piled with quarterly reports falsified to hell. I locked the door. Booted her laptop. Password autofilled. Because hubris. Files upon files. The neural mapper blueprints. FDA bribes disguised as consulting fees, and the kicker, Jack's death certificate. Annotated with test subject viability. Negative. She'd poisoned him with a neural toxin, mimicking brake fluid in his blood work. Covered it with a falsified autopsy from a coroner on her payroll. But the real secret? Buried in an encrypted folder labeled Legacy, Evelyn hadn't just killed Jack for the money. She'd borne an illegitimate daughter, 40 years ago. A fling with a venture capitalist who'd ghosted her. The girl, raised in foster care in Oakland, now a journalist sniffing around Whitaker's scandals for the Cron. Evelyn's plan post-swap: frame me and her body for embezzlement, pin Jack's murder on the daughter as revenge for abandonment, then swap again into a fresh vessel, maybe the girl's, for poetic cruelty. Betrayal? She'd sacrificed her own blood to protect her empire. I'd taken the fall already, grieving widow. Now corporate witch in her stead. I downloaded everything to a thumb drive hidden in my bra. The metal cool against sweat-slick skin. Controversial decision 1. Mercy kill the project. I accessed the lab feeds, cameras showing Voss calibrating the mapper for her next jump. Rows of pods like sci-fi coffins, humming with illicit power. One email from her in my body, to Voss: prepare for reversal. Subject: V stable. House sale funds transfer imminent. She was tying up loose ends, using my life to bankroll her escape. I couldn't let it stand. Heart slamming, I initiated a remote shutdown, overloads programmed into the beta code Jack had flagged. Alarms blared in my mind's eye as sparks flew on the monitors. The machine frying like bacon in a grease fire. Voss's panicked voice crackled over intercom. MS. Whitaker? What the? I hung up, smashed the laptop with her Mont Blanc pen, glass shards raining like confetti at a botched wedding. But Evelyn was steps ahead. As I fled the tower, tires screeching onto Page Mill Road, my phone, her phone lit up. Caller ID, Valerie. My voice. Her words. Mother? What have you done? Playing the part. The dutiful daughter-in-law calling to check in. I answered, forcing her aristocratic drawl. Darling. Just tying up loose ends. The house closes tomorrow, your fresh start. Laughter bubbled. Mine edged with venom. Fresh start? You stole mine. Silence. Then a hiss. You always were the weak link.
Valerie.
Jack saw it. That's why he's worm food. We met at the closing. Neutral ground, a title company in Mill Valley. Redwoods whispering omens outside. She arrived in my body, jeans hugging hips I'd miss. My chestnut hair in a ponytail that screamed suburban normal. Her eyes, though cold as the Pacific in January, gave her away. The agent. A balding guy named Herb with a comb-over like a bad-to-pay ad, prattled about escrows and liens. Evelyn signed first, flourish of the pen like a death warrant. Then me in her body, arthritic fingers trembling. One moment, I said, sliding the ring across the table. Jack's ring, the one she'd forgotten to pawn. Engraved inside, coordinates to her Cayman's account, a breadcrumb Jack had hidden after hacking her files. Her face, my face froze. What is this? Herb blinked, confused. I leaned in, voice low, the crucial detail. Evelyn.
19.4260°N. 81.3845 symbol stopnia W.
That's not a vacation spot. That's your dirty little slush fund. 42 million from Jack's policy. Laundered through the mapper trials. The room tensed. Air thick as Humboldt fog. Controversial decision 2. Go public. I pulled the drive. Plugged it into Herb's ancient desktop. Files bloomed on screen. Transfers. Toxins. Swap logs. Evelyn lunged. But I was faster.
Slamming the door lock.
You think you can play God in America? Land of the free. Home of the Sioux happy. SEC's gonna love this. And that daughter of yours? She's about to inherit more than daddy's regrets. Sirens wailed distant, my anonymous tip to the feds from a burner app en route. Evelyn, no. The imposter in my skin rattled the knob, pounding. You bitch. This body is mine now. I laughed, bitter as black coffee at 4 a.m. Yours? Honey. It's leased. And the lease is up. Twist incoming. The swap wasn't permanent. Jack's hack had a kill switch tied to the ring's NFC chip. I twisted it, felt the neural pull like hooks in my brain. Reality warped, colors bleeding. Evelyn's memories surging one last time. Regret. Not for Jack, but for the empire crumbling. We snapped back mid-scream. Me and my body, collapsing to the carpet, tasting freedom like craft IPA after a drought. Her and hers, clawing at the mirror across the room, horrified wrinkles deepening. Herb gaped, phone dialing 911. What the fuck just happened? Cops burst in minutes later. Evelyn raving about body thieves. Me calm as a senator at a hearing. Drive an evidence bag. The headlines would scream, Pharma heiress cracks, conspiracy or breakdown. Debates on Fox. CNN panels dissecting ethics of mind uploading for the 1%. But the real climax brewed in the shadows. As they cuffed her, whispering about psych evals at Napa State, I slipped out, witness, not suspect. The house sale, voided by fraud claims. I kept it, the views unchanged, but ghosts lingered. Jack's study, empty chair by the window. And that daughter? I found her obit 2 weeks later, suicide. Cron said, but notes hinted at Evelyn's warning call. Had she reached out? Spiteful to the end? Revenge tasted like ash. I won the house. The truth. A book deal from some hungry agent in LA. But in quiet nights, fog rolling in, I wonder, did I swap back clean? Or does her echo whisper in my dreams? Plotting the next merger? The trial was a circus. American justice served with popcorn and partisan spin. 6 months after the closing room showdown, Evelyn Whitaker's arraignment packed the San Jose federal courthouse like a Black Friday sale at the Great Mall. Cameras flashed from the press pool, Cron reporters eyed anonymously fed scoops to Fox embeds foaming about woke deep state conspiracies. Even a podcaster from Austin ranting about transhumanist cabals on the courthouse steps. I sat in the gallery, back row, incognito in oversized sunnies and a mariner's cap, Seattle transplant vibe to throw off the rubberneckers. My body felt foreign still, like borrowing a friend's jeans after laundry day. Fits, but the seams itch. Evelyn, shackled and sedated, looked every bit the fallen titan. Her lawyers, Shark Tank from Wilson Sonsini, argued diminished capacity, blaming a neurological anomaly from the MAPR experiments. Bullshit. Of course, Voss had flipped like a bad pancake, testifying for immunity about the human trials. Vagrants from the Tenderloin promised rent money, waking up with strangers' phobias rattling their skulls. The judge, a no-nonsense Latina from East Palo Alto named Rivera, wasn't buying. Anomaly? Yes. Whitaker, you engineered Armageddon in a petri dish. Bail denied, remanded to Santa Rita, where orange jumpsuits clashed with her Birkenstock worldview. I should have felt vindicated. Sipping Chardonnay at home with a settlement check, Whitaker Pharma's hush money rerouted through class action suits for the trial victims. But revenge is a hollow craft.
Vol.
Nights blurred into Zoloft-fueled hazes. Therapy sessions with a shrink in Corte Madera unpacking the PTSD like it was IKEA furniture. Flashbacks, The swap's vertigo. Evelyn's memories bleeding into mine. Her first boardroom coup. Ousting her own father for stock options. The abortion she'd hidden from Jack. A whisper of what if that soured every family Easter ham. Was I avenging Jack? Or purging her poison from my veins? Controversial decision 3. Reach out to the daughter. Her name was Lila Voss, no relation to the doc. Just cruel coincidence, 39. Features a softer echo of Evelyn's severity. Raised on Oakland's ghost town edges after mom dumped her at a firehouse like yesterday's Chronicle. I traced her through obits and adoption records. The kind of digging that gets you flagged by the NSA. She lived in a converted warehouse in Jack London Square, freelancing exposés on Bay Area grifters for outlets that paid in exposure. Our first meet? Neutral turf, a dimly lit taqueria off Broadway. Mariachi on low. Air thick with carnitas grease and regret. She slid into the booth, wary as a stray cat. Laptop bag slung like armor. Valerie Whitaker? The widow who torched the empire? Her voice, gravel from too many smokes and late-night deadlines. I nodded, peeling the label off my Tecate. Guilty. But it's the truth that burns. Lila. Evelyn wasn't just your mother, she was a monster in Louboutins. I slid a folder across, printouts of the legacy files. DNA confirmation from a discreet lab in Vegas. Her hands shook opening it. Photos spilling. Evelyn at a gala. Arm candy on a senator. Baby pics that matched Lila's orphanage file. Why now? She spat. Eyes wet but fierce. You think a sob story buys absolution? She reached out. You know, before the arrest. Voicemail. Stay away from my blood, or you'll end up like him. Him, Jack. Implied. The threat that pushed Lila over. Pills washed down with gin in a tub overlooking the estuary. I'd saved her obit by leaking to her editor. But the damage? Irreversible scar tissue. I leaned in, voice steady, because blood's thicker than the lies she peddled. And because Jack would have wanted it. He knew about you, Evelyn's secret shame. That's why he dug deeper. Family wasn't just her empire. It was you. She laughed, bitter as burnt coffee. Family?
Bitch. Please.
I was the glitch in her algorithm. But she took the folder. And we talked till closing, her scoops on foster system fuckery. My paralegal war stories from evicting families for banks post-08 crash. Bonded over the hypocrisy, America's promise of upward mobility. Crushed under heels like Evelyn's. By dawn. Allies forged in the fire of shared ghosts. Controversial? Hell yes, befriending the spawn of my tormentor. Risking her playing me like Evelyn did. But in the swap's aftermath, morality blurred like fog on the bay. Was forgiveness the ultimate revenge? Or just another swap? Meanwhile, the empire crumbled. SEC raids on Whitaker Tower. Headlines screaming body-snatching scandal. Pharma moguls mad science. Stock plummeted faster than a dot-com bust. VCs bailing like rats from the Presidio. Voss, the Rat King, cut a deal. Full confession vid streamed on X. Him blubbering about ethical horizons while naming names, senators. Celebs on waitlists for immortality swaps. Public outrage boiled. Protests outside the tower. Swap the rich trending with memes of Evelyn's face on Thanos. I stayed low. But Lila didn't. Her piece in the Cron, my mother's monster, the human cost of Whitaker's God complex, dropped like a grenade. Interviews with trial survivors. Lab techs whispering about ghost echoes, haunting execs post-swap. Evelyn's response? A jailhouse manifesto smuggled to her attorneys. The future isn't for the weak. Rants about Darwinian upgrades, how the mapper was mercy, extending lives for the deserving, not leeches like Valerie. Leaked. Of course, I made sure. Her fanboys, libertarian tech bros from the Valley, rallied. GoFundMe for appeals. Podcast decrying cancel culture killing innovation. Controversy peaked. Cable news debates on transhuman rights. Ethicists versus Elon wannabes. Polls showing 52% of Americans open to consciousness uploads if it meant beating cancer.
Me?
I watched from the bungalow porch. Jack's old rocking chair creaking. A joint smoldering between fingers that finally felt like mine. But the tension coiled tighter. Whispers from Lila, Evelyn's cellmate. A lifer from the Oakland Hills. Feeding her black market lithium, enough to stabilize for another play. The mapper was toast. But backups existed, offshore servers in Singapore. Code Jack hadn't torched. Dreamt it one night. Her voice in my head. Silky as Merlot. You think you won? Dear? Swaps aren't one-way streets. Woke sweating. Heart racing like I'd mainlined Adderall. Paranoia? Or echo? The shrink called it intrapsychic residue. Prescribed more pills. I flushed them. Drove to the bridge at midnight. Staring at the lights like they held answers. Climax brewed in a deposition room. Fluorescent hum like a migraine. Evelyn's team subpoenaed me, key witness to the delusion. Chained to the table. She looked frail. But eyes? Sharks circling chum. Valerie, she cooed.
My old name a weapon.
Still playing house in my son's hovel? How quaint. I met her gaze. Unflinching. Your hovel now. Evelyn. 50 to life suits you. Her lawyers droned questions about the swap. The ring. My motives. I stonewalled. But she cracked the mask. You stole my life. But blood calls. A nod to the guard. And chaos. Contraband shank from her sleeve. Lunging across the table. I dodged. Chair toppling. Alarm shrieking. Her blade grazed my arm. Hot sting like paper cut from hell. Security swarmed. Tasers popping like fireworks on the 4th. As they dragged her. Foaming. She spat. The coordinates. They're not just money. They're the reversal code. Activate. And we trade again.
Lie?
Or the twist I dreaded. The room spun. Blood dripping on linoleum. Lila's face flashing. Had Evelyn primed her as backup vessel? Deposition ended in mistrial buzz. Evelyn sedated for attempted assault. But the seed planted. Doubt. Was the swap truly severed? Nights after. I twisted the ring under desk lamp. NFC scanner on my phone pinging faint signals, ghost data packets from the Cayman server. Coordinates led not just to funds, but a dark web portal, Mapper 2.0, crowdsourced by her acolytes. Hackers in hoodies, coding immortality for crypto kings. Decision 4. The gut punch. Burn it all. I called Lila. Voice steady over burner line. We end this. Tonight. She met me at the old lab site, torched husk off Dumbarton. Chain link rattling in the wind off the salt flats. Flashlights, cut shadows. Us in hoodies like Bonnie and Clyde rejects. Server access via Voss's snitch codes. We jacked in. Codes scrolling like the Matrix on bath salts. Evelyn's digital ghost lurked, AI echo of her mind. Taunting, daughter. Widow. Fools. The future swaps the unworthy. Lila hesitated, fingers hovering. What if it's real? What if she pulls me in? Her fear. Raw as open wound.
I greb til skjoldet. Minikin.
Finally. Then we fight dirty. American way. We hit delete. Flames virtual but fierce. Code crumbling like Jericho walls. Sirens distant. Feds tracing the breach. We ran. Salt air whipping faces. Laughing manic into the void. But the twist reversed everything. Back home. Dawn breaking over the bay. A package on the porch. No return address. A content spilling medical file. My blood work from the swap night. Positive for chimerism. Evelyn's DNA woven into mine. Neural grafts permanent. No full reversal possible, we'd merged. Her memories? Mine now. The secret? Jack wasn't her only victim. We'd covered a trial mishap years back. A patient left catatonic. Payout hushed. My crime? Her mistake. I'd borne it. Unknowingly. As her daughter-in-law facade. Ending? Debatable tragedy. I kept the house. Lila moved in, sisters by spite. Whitaker's ruins funded reparations. Us ghosts haunting the boardrooms via lawsuits. But in quiet, I feel her, ambitions whisper, urging one more swap. Happy? For the broken? Maybe. Or just the American grind. Reloaded. A year blurred by in the haze of aftermath. The kind of post-trauma fog that makes California's endless summer feel like a looped surveillance reel. The bungalows stood sentinel. Bay views mocking with their postcard perfection, sailboats slicing water like scalpels. While I paced the kitchen island, nursing black coffee strong as regret. Lila had claimed Jack's old office, turning it into a war room of laptops and takeout boxes. Her exposés now syndicating to the Atlantic, each byline a middle finger to Evelyn's ghost. We were an odd duo, me, the paralegal turned reluctant avenger, filing amicus briefs pro bono for Mapper victims, her, the firebrand chronicling the fall of transhuman titans. Therapy? Group sessions at the VA Annex in San Rafael, where ex-soldiers swapped war stories with lab rat survivors, all of us chasing catharsis in circle jerks of shared scars. Evelyn rotted in supermax isolation at Chowchilla Women's, her appeals denied faster than a spam filter on Viagra ads. Last I'd heard, through a crooked CO Lila bribed with in-and-out gift cards, she'd gone catatonic, staring at cinderblock walls like they held the reversal code. Poetic. In a Dante meets Downton way. But her empire's tendrils lingered, shell companies in Delaware. VCs pivoting to ethical AI startups that smelled like rebranded snake oil. The public debate raged on, op-eds in the Wall Street Journal defending neural liberty as the next civil right, while Occupy 2.0 kids graffitied swap the 1% on Whitaker's gutted facade.
Me?
I dodged TEDx invites, haunted X threads wherein Kells idolized Evelyn as Alpha Queen, doxing my handle with photoshopped deepfakes of me as a body-snatching succubus. The chimerism gnawed deepest. Doctor visits to UCSF Neuro Wing confirmed it. Her DNA strands laced through my neurons like kudzu in the Everglades, memories fusing at the synapses. I'd wake from dreams of her, closing deals in Tokyo. The thrill of a hostile takeover, only to bolt upright, gasping, tasting her Chanel no. 5 on my tongue. Was I Valerie? Or Evelyn 2.0? Ambition simmering under suburban veneer? Lila noticed, cornering me one fog-shrouded morning over avocado toast. You're tweaking?
Vol.
Like mom on a bender before the board meets. Her eyes, so like Evelyn's in repose, held no judgment, just the weary kinship of survivors. What if I am her? I whispered, fork stabbing toast like it owed me rent. She shrugged. Pragmatic as Oakland asphalt. Then we swap roles. I keep you honest. Sisters, remember? Controversial Decision 5. The Pilgrimage. Jack's crash site on Highway 1. That treacherous curve by Devil's Slide where the guardrail bent like tinfoil under his Tesla's weight. We drove up in my Prius, hybrid hum a far cry from her old Audi, windows down. Wind whipping salt from our hair. Tourists milled at the overlook, snapping pics of waves crashing on rocks below. Oblivious to the plaque, in memory of Jack Whittaker, beloved son and husband. I knelt, fingers tracing the brass, fog muting the ocean's roar. He knew. You know, I told the wind. About the swap. The money.
You.
Said it made him fight harder. Lila stood sentinel, shades hiding tears. And you? What did it make you? Vengeful. I thought. Fractured.
Alive.
We scattered his ashes, saved from the urn Evelyn tried to repatriate, to a family plot in Sacramento. Specks swirled into the surf, vanishing like deleted code. Cathartic? In fragments. But as we hiked back to the car, phone buzzed. Unknown number. Boss's voice. Jittery as a postdoc on deadline. Valerie? It's active. The echo, it's not dead. Heart dropped like the bridge toll. The Cayman server? We'd torched it. But echoes propagated, blockchain shards in decentralized nodes. Evelyn's mind fractalized across the dark web. She's reaching, he stammered. Through the grafts. In you. Panic clawed. But I played cool. Fix it,
Doc.
Or Lila's next piece is your mugshot. Hung up. Drove south. Radio blasting NPR on the crisis in Gaza, irony thick. Empires toppling worldwide while one old bat haunted from beyond. Home. I locked the ring in a safe. But the whispers amped, her voice in my head. Not dreams now. But idle moments, chopping cilantro for tacos.
Her murmur, weak.
Sell the house. Start over. I resisted. Cooking with Lila. Binging Succession marathons where the Roys felt like Whittaker fanfic. But the tension built. A slow boil toward rupture. Climax Redux, the gala. Whittaker's legacy fundraiser. Irony or audacity. At the Fairmont in Nob Hill. Proceeds ostensibly for neural ethics research, really a slush for her legal eagles. Lila scored invites via her bylines. I went as her plus one. Dressed in thrift Chanel that hung loose on my frame. Crystal chandeliers dripped light like falsified earnings. Donors mingling, tech bros and zucks. Socialites with filler lips pursing over caviar. Whispers followed us. That's her. The widow who flipped the script. I smiled. Teeth gritted. Champagne flute steady. Then, the keynote. A proxy for Evelyn. Some silver-haired ethicist droning about consciousness as commodity. Midway, the AV glitches, screen flickering to static. Then her face, Evelyn. Digitized. Eyes manic. Ladies. Gentlemen. Fools. Gasps rippled. Phones out recording. Her echo. Pieced from server ghosts. Hijacking the feed. Valerie thinks she won. But the swap endures. In her blood. My will. Watch. The screen split, my face. Live from the crowd. But eyes glazing. Body jerking like a marionette. I felt it, the pull. Neural override firing. Her code commanding limbs. I lurched forward. Mic in hand. Voice mine but laced with her timbre. The future isn't forgiveness. It's reclamation. Chaos erupted, screams, security swarming, Lila shouting my name. But the twist inverted. It wasn't takeover. It was farewell. Her echo, fraying at the edges, confessed on the hacked stream. Jack.
My boy.
I killed for legacy. But it was fear. Of fading. Valerie carries it now. Our sins. Fused. Let her be the redemption. Pixels warped. Her image dissolving into code rain. Servers self-purging worldwide. The pulse snapped, leaving me slumped. Crowd hushed. Lila cradling me as ushers cleared the room. Feds swept in post-gala, cyber forensics tracing the breach to a suicide script in the nodes. Evelyn's final act, not revenge, but release. Or manipulation. Debates exploded. Viral clips dissected on TikTok philosophy threads. Ethicists pondering if a digital ghost could atone.
Me?
I woke in the ER. Monitors beeping like a bad remix. Lila vigilant. Scans clean. Chimerism stable. No overrides. Her memories? Faded to echoes. Like old mixtapes warped by time. Ending landed soft. Debatable as a hung jury. We sold the house, not for spite. But fresh start, a condo in Oakland for Lila's beat. Me crashing when the fog called. Reparations flowed. Funding a nonprofit, Neural Justice League, advocating for trial survivors. No swaps allowed. I dated tentatively a barista with tattoos and trust issues. Coffee dates, turning to hikes in the redwoods. Happy? In patches. Jack's ring? Worn daily. Coordinates now etched in a tattoo on my wrist. Reminder. Not curse. But late nights. Bay breeze whispering through open windows. I wonder, did she let go? Or just hand me the reins? America's dark heart. Betrayal.
Power.
Redemption beats on. One swapped heartbeat at a time. Tragic? Maybe. Or the ultimate American hustle, turning poison into power. You decide.